Hi everybody, David Paul with you, meteorologist here at KHOU 11 News, based out of Houston, Texas. Tropical update. Hurricane season in the Atlantic begins Wednesday, June the 1st. And not almost right on schedule, but literally right on schedule. We've got a system that has potential development on the first day of hurricane season 2022. It's this spot with little X's, a remnant circulation of what at one point was a big hurricane in the Pacific. It was Agatha, but the remnants, although they've almost completely dissipated, this piece of energy now has a decent chance, a good chance, a 70% chance, says the Hurricane Center, of developing into the first named system of 2022 on the Atlantic side. It will have its own Atlantic name, and that would be Alex. And we'll go over all of this and why I think this has a very good chance for developing here over the next couple of days as we move along. Rest of the Gulf of Mexico and the open Atlantic are quiet. This is the only game in town right now. This storm began several days ago as a tropical depression, then tropical storm, then hurricane in the Pacific Ocean. Now, the Pacific season begins in May, so it's not unusual to have a hurricane in the East Pacific in the month of May. But what was unusual about Agatha is its strength and its landfall. Agatha made landfall on the Pacific Mexican coast here with max winds of 105 miles an hour. It had had peak winds of 110 over water, then weakened to 105 as it made landfall. But that made it the strongest hurricane landfall on record on the Pacific coast of Mexico in the month of May. Now, records only go back to 1949, so it's not a whole lot of data, but that's what we've got. There may have been stronger storms before that we just didn't know about. But anyway you slice it, this has been a strong hurricane with a lot of heavy rain and mudslide threats in south central Mexico. This was the last advisory that the Hurricane Center issued, and this was on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Since then, not only has the depression weakened and gone away, but the remnant circulation has gotten broken up over the mountains, so there's not even really a remnant circulation here. But as we zoom out, there is a piece of energy, and it's here. Over the western Yucatan Peninsula, you can see thunderstorms flaring up here over the Yucatan. They're getting a good rainy night there across the Yucatan of Mexico. And it's this area that will drift over the waters of the Gulf of Mexico and interact here in the Yucatan Channel, and we think a good chance for redevelopment into a tropical depression, perhaps, maybe even a tropical storm over the next several days. Now, there are a lot of factors out there right now that will go into this. As we look again, this is moving over an area where we've got, at the moment, a little bit of wind shear. It's not too terribly heavy, but the remnants, again, are likely to redevelop in this region, and the Hurricane Center gives it a 70% chance over the next 5 days. But what I wanted to point out is that even over the next 48 hours, we've got a 40% chance that this develops, and it will be within the next 24, 36 hours during the 1st of June, maybe even early, late in the night, the 1st of June into the 2nd of June, that it gets over the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico. One of the biggest players in this will be the MaddenJulian Oscillation. What is the MaddenJulian Oscillation? It is a global wave that has an active phase where you have enhanced thunderstorm activity, enhanced lift, and a quiet phase where you have less storms or you have sinking air. And this wave begins life here over Indonesia and the maritime continent and then propagates to the east. And so it can move across the globe, and as it moves, you can actually shift phases depending on where you are on the planet. Quite often it moves east, and then the quiet phase takes over Indonesia, and the active phase, the lift phase, making it more likely for storms to develop, or storms that do develop to be stronger, can move over to the Atlantic basin. And that is what appears to be happening right now. So what we do is we divide the globe up into 8 regions. And if we're going to get the MaddenJulian's active phase, the lifting phase, think of it as a rising tide raises all boats, giving storms, even winter storms, when it happens in winter, a better chance for producing heavy rainfall or snowfall. We're in zone 8 and 1. That's the Atlantic basin here. So where is the active phase of the MJO right now? Well, it's here in zone 7. However, over the next couple of days, it is forecast to move into zone 8. That's the Atlantic basin. That's the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean and the Atlantic Ocean. So we're going to move into a general more active, encouraging phase of lift over the Atlantic basin, and that has a statistical degree of increasing the number of storms that form in the Gulf, the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico. So we got that going on right now. Also, sea surface temperatures are 3 to 5 degrees above normal across the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, so water temperatures are certainly warm enough out here. They're above normal. They're all above 80 degrees. One thing that's working against this is the wind shear potential. So wind shear, winds at mid and upper levels, will be quite strong in this zone where the system is moving into. So that may, it may, in one case, help to get lift going in the storm, but it will help to decrease the amount of organization in a storm. So if something does form there, it looks like it will be disorganized and ragged. A healthy hurricane needs to be vertically stacked. When you get wind shear, like this storm is going to be interacting with, it tilts the storm over, which disrupts the circulation. And in fact, strong wind shear can rip a healthy storm apart. It can also completely keep a weak system from developing at all. So that's one player that's working against development. I think what we're going to end up with is some sort of lopsided circulation that may or may not become a tropical depression or tropical storm. This is the European model. I think it has a very good handle on how this is going to play out. And this takes us out into Friday, the 3rd of June in the morning. And it does produce a broad circulation over the Yucatan Channel, over the southeast Gulf of Mexico. So where is this going to go and who's it going to impact? Well, it looks most likely it would be Cuba and Florida for a couple of reasons. At the surface, to the north, we're actually going to have a weak frontal boundary push all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And behind that front, you've got high pressure at the surface. That's a mountain of air. So that mountain is going to help to shove and keep this storm off to the south and east, and eventually help it to rise up to the north and east and move across Florida and into the Atlantic Ocean. So that's what's going on at the surface. In the upper levels, we've got this. We have a trough. And so this is really the driving force as to where the storm is going to go. It's these mid and upper level winds. So here would be our developing system, lopsided, as we head into Friday, the 3rd, 6 in the evening, and our winds at 34,000 feet with this nice trough. So that is most likely going to pick up this storm and move it and push it off to the east. In fact, as we go into Sunday, not only do we have this troughiness here, but look at the ridge to the south. So there's a lot of wind energy west to east to move this very rapidly across Florida. So Florida, you may see significant rain then Friday, Saturday, and by Sunday, you're on the dry side of that circulation and it's getting out of your hair. We go forward in time, Monday, Tuesday, we go into Wednesday, the 8th, and what there is of this system will be way out in the open Atlantic. And look, another little trough here encouraging it to push itself out into the open Atlantic, and then behind it a bigger trough. That may actually have a frontal boundary push all the way down to the deep south as we get into the 8th of June, an unusual June cool front. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, the tropical entity, what there is of it, will be way out in the open Atlantic, and it won't be able to come back and impact us. Okay, rain will be the biggest impact from this system, and it will be Florida that will see the heaviest rain. You can see from Tampa southward is where the most rain will fall. Tampa to Fort Pierce, maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches. You get down closer to Miami and the Keys, 5 to 7 inches, and probably a spot or two that get 10 inches of rain. These weak, struggling to develop tropical entities are notorious for going ahead and dropping a ton of rain. So it would not surprise me to see some double-digit rain totals, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, down across the Keys all the way to Key West. Okay, interestingly, this would be the first, and will be now, the first hurricane season in, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last 7 years in a row, we've had an early season named storm system. So this will be the first year in 8 years that we have not had a May or earlier named tropical storm in the Atlantic Basin. That being said, we're still forecasting a very busy season, and the first name on the list would be Alex. So this one will be Alex. It's not going to be Agatha, because what there was of Agatha has completely dissipated. That circulation would really have to maintain itself across Mexico to maintain the same name Agatha. So this will be a new system. It'll be Alex if it does indeed get that far. And then Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, and on the list will go. Some of the forecasts take us to as many as 20 plus named storms this season. So we are forecasting another very, very busy season. It looks like we may be off to the races right away on June 1st, the first day of hurricane season. All right, that's where we stand right now. Comments, questions, I read them, by the way. Leave me comments. And we'll keep you updated as we head through the rest of what promises to be a busy hurricane season.